Pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Why Is That? And more importantly, question number 64 out of 65. And I will say for sure that I've certainly come a long way. Went down a very narrow, yet super long road that pretty much leads to where I am now. I'm so close to finishing this entire part of the series itself of Why Is That? That I will say there will be a lot more to come. But of course, I'll save most of that talk for the next question, which will also be the final one. So anyways, question number 64 out of 65 says down here in this screenshot, why is that you pick cinematic style tracks for your background music? And yeah, you're pretty much referring to a lot of work that I've made in 2017, 2018, and part of 2019. Because here in 2020, I feel like I have not been as creative or as, I guess, skilled when it comes to my editing. Because I haven't really done a whole lot when it comes to editing, even though I've actually gone as far as to creating title screens, pretty much, for some of my series. Of course, this is pretty much the first time that I've actually created a more professional and more complex title screen out there. But there's been a few others here and there. Like in the intro of Honest Jane Nowak, it's pretty much just another title screen that pretty much showcases the title on the left side and me on the right side. And not to mention, there's also been the Nerf Secret Revealed theme song put together into its own title card and its own, I guess, title screen in general. But there was also an ending screen to it, a credits screen, if you will, for Nerf Secret Revealed. So that's another big point of complication that I was able to put together there. I guess Nerf Secret Revealed is probably where I put the most effort into my creativity and editing when it came to putting together a title screen and an end screen towards each of my episodes there. But as for others, there's not been a lot. Hot Wheels Hilarity was another series that also has had a title screen and an end screen in it, but they're not at all as complex. So that just goes to show what that is. But anyways, that's not really the point why I got here. So anyways, I picked cinematic style tracks for background music, mostly because of the fact that, well, I've been a big fan of compositions. Especially because certain composers out there, like Hans Zimmer, Randy Newman, Raymond Jolwady, and Ludwig Göransson, Lorna Balfa, Steve Jablonsky, and many others out there, they're some of my favorite to date. And I mean to date. And that's only because, well, I've heard about their compositions based on certain scores and soundtracks over the last 15 years, and I gotta say, Randy Newman was actually one of the first that I ever really admired. Especially for the Toy Story quadrilogy, which included Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, and Toy Story 4, which came out last year. Yeah. We've definitely come a long way since CGI first got blended together into its own gigantic feature film-related project, and that Randy Newman was the composer for that film, which was awesome. Because the way I see it, Randy Newman already had a pretty big collection of albums and work that it was ridiculously awesome, the way I see it. But it got even better with other composers coming in. Hans Zimmer, of course, was another composer that I've known for a very long time. But others out there that eventually came to mind, like Steve Jablonsky, and then eventually Raymond Jolwady and Lorna Balfa, and many others along the line. They pretty much all came around, and it was yet another pretty big awesome time there for me to pretty much sit around, because there were lots of movies that came out in the 2010s where it featured all of these composers. That's amazing, pretty much. It goes to show that as time flies by, their profession can become even better. And that's kind of what the 2010s were like for all those people. But let's also not forget, if there was another really memorable composer that I've known, then it's also Alan Silvestri. Alan Silvestri has actually made plenty of compositions as well. The first that I've ever heard about being The Polar Express. And that was also one of the first ever movies that I saw in theaters as a really young kid. Back in late 2004. I was 5 years old then. Also had a lot of stomach issues. So, enough about that, pretty much. But Alan Silvestri was yet another really memorable composer who also went as far as to creating the soundtrack for Avengers Endgame. That is incredible. The Polar Express's own composer, Alan Silvestri, comes again to compose the soundtrack for Avengers Endgame, the greatest movie of all time. More than Avatar or Titanic. But you know what? Of course, aside from all of those people that I've really admired growing up, it's the sound of cinematic-related music that really catches my eye. Especially with the incredible beat of the things like the drums, the horn instruments, the stringed instruments, the guitar flair that comes by every now and then. It's just unpredictably amazing. It just sounds even great. And I will say for sure that I've incorporated as much of that kind of material into my videos because I like to have that kind of influence. I'm not necessarily all about that super pop and that super synth and the like, but mostly just that cinematic stuff. Especially if it's suspenseful, or if it's brightening, or if it's any other sort of level of mood, whatever it is. So, that's pretty much what you need to know about that in general. But now, we're still not over yet. Not yet. One last question comes around, and then it'll all be over then. But until that happens, if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.